Hello everybody and welcome to the evolution of animal breeding in Minecraft. In this video we are going to be taking a journey into the past as we look back at the inventions and contraptions that have evolved over time and led us to the compact and efficient farms that we use today. Having played a big role in the development of these farms and animal breeding in general, we are going to be looking back at 20 different contraptions I created that will tell an interesting story of design, technology and progression within the Minecraft world. And before we do that, there are two big points to make. Firstly, the contraptions and farms you will see in this video were not solely my creation. I worked with the community and audience through comments and collaborations to continually improve our contraptions, and as time has gone by it's been difficult to remember the names and specific contributions. However, I will be doing my best to remember and point these out in the videos. So secondly, this game has changed a lot over time. When animal breeding was first introduced, minecarts were the only known way to separate the babies from its parents. The mobs could still glitch into walls and die, and they would jump out of minecarts when a chunk or world was reloaded. For these reasons, you may see many contraptions and mechanics that just don't make sense by today's standards, and I assure you that at the time these were the best ways to do animal breeding. And as development continued over time, updates fixed problems, and you can see this as the farms changed and reacted to these fixes. So without anything else to say, let's jump right into it and start where I started.
Alright guys, this is DocM with another Minecraft video, and yeah, I guess you know it, yesterday beta 1.9 pre-release 3 came out and we got some new features in the game again, especially the breeding I'm interested in. And yeah, there were some changes. We got those baby animals, and I have a little breeding cell here to demonstrate to you what I'm talking about now. It's a really clever design. I saw it on a video. I can't remember.
So this is where it all started for me. DocM posted a video not long after the pre-release of beta 1.9. He showcased a contraption where you could bring two animals together in minecarts and you could breed them and separate the baby into a water stream. And this was the beginning of animal breeding contraptions. The problem was there was no way to store the animals in the minecarts, because as soon as you exited the world or unloaded the chunk they would be separate from the minecart, and this would cause some chaos. So he put out the incentive to the community to come up with a design, and this is what inspired me to create the animal breeding cell. And here it is, clearly not the prettiest of contraptions. The redstone could have been a lot more compact, but this was all about the concept, and the concept worked. The idea was to store the minecart and the sheep inside a contained space in which the sheep couldn't escape from, so when you unloaded the chunks it would always be next to the minecart. The cool thing about this was as soon as the minecart moved it would pick up the sheep, and this meant there was a way to actually store the sheep and the minecart in the same place. So now that we could store the animals in cells and we could breed them as well, I set out to make the world's first animal breeding machine, and although technically I did this, it was in no way survival friendly. There were a lot of things that still needed to be figured out, and the contraption that I created ended up being extremely bulky and unfriendly, and I made the classic mistake here of recording at night time, which means that things aren't too visible, but basically there was an immense amount of logic circuits involved in controlling which cells would be activated in which sequence, and as well as that there was also a lot of redstone and logic to control the tracks that the sheep moved on. So this made it very unfriendly for survival Minecraft, but it was technically the first animal breeding machine where you could call the animals out, you could breed them, separate the babies and then send them back to their storage cells. So the first animal breeding machine was pretty much a proof of concept, but this second one all of a sudden became survival friendly. With feedback from the Minecraft community, it was suggested that the breeding cells should have the exit at the front and the entrance at the back, and this meant that by tiling them together you could activate a redstone signal to move all of the sheep from one cell into the one in front of it, or the breeding bay if that was the one at the front. And this meant that we could remove a ton of redstone for controlling which sheep would get activated to come to the breeding bay, and also to control all of the rails as well, as they would simply go around in a circle from one cell to the next. And so this created a relatively friendly but still quite bulky and expensive contraption. So the evolution continued, and this third design will probably remain as one of my favourites, for with feedback from the community we were able to make huge strides forward, reducing the cost and also increasing the compactness of the farm. One of the big discoveries we made is the realization that the sheep can pass through the glass without taking any damage, and this meant we could remove the use of sticky pistons, which greatly reduced the amount of redstone being used. As well as this, we could drop the sheep in from behind, so the cells became a little bit more compact, and we also realized that a circular design here could in general just reduce the total amount of redstone and materials used. It was also significantly faster than the previous designs, being able to move the animals from cell to cell very quickly, as well as in and out of the breeding bay, and it would be a few months before this design would find itself being revised. During the time between the animal breeding machines, we also took a look at breeding chickens as well. This wasn't quite the same deal, but me and Mr. Pixeltech collaborated on this contraption, which was called the Chickenator. It consisted of a chicken coop, which was a chicken above water. That meant that the eggs could drop down below and you could pick them up. And remember, this was a time before hoppers existed. And then you could put them into the main contraption over here, where you'd put the eggs in the dispenser and it would hatch the chickens above fire. They would fall down onto trapdoors and then you could pick up the cooked chicken. During this time, the pig breeding cell was developed to be used with the original breeding bay. Due to the different height of the pigs, they required a different type of cell, and it took a little while to figure out, but eventually with the use of pistons we were able to create a cell that works with the pigs. This next contraption is the wall regeneration cell. It's not a breeding machine, but it's something interesting that I created and wanted to show you. It was based on a contraption by Survive in Minecraft, and in this design the idea is that we would rotate the sheep around in a circle, they would walk across grass where they could eat and regrow their wool, and they would drop down into a shearing bay at the front, and this meant that you could shear the sheep and then you could cycle them back through the machine so they could regrow their wool. Remember the chicken farm I showed you a moment ago? Well, this is the all-in-one compacted design, and you can see these chickens at the top. They are part of a chicken coop. When they lay their eggs, they're going to go into the water stream down below, but they're also part of a killing chamber as well, as when we retract these sticky pistons they're going to be dropped down onto some fire at the back, and then they'll be turned into cooked chicken. Now this does look like a little bit of a strange contraption, but at the time this is actually really compact and clever, and I think it goes to show that of all the things they've added in the game over time, they've only served to help us compact our contraptions. So here it is, the fourth rendition of the animal breeding machine, probably one of the most overlooked videos I think I've made. This didn't make a lot of fuss in the community, however it was such a huge advancement forward. We had really compacted the cells and the breeding bay as well into a much smaller and friendlier contraption. Now I don't know specifically who did this, but someone came up with this fantastic idea for really compacting the cells down and kind of squashing them next to one another, which saved a lot of resources. It also used a lot less redstone, and it made it compatible with pigs as well, so you didn't need to build a separate cell type. And better yet, there were also some advancements with the breeding bay using trapdoors, so this contraption became a lot more friendly in general, and this I think was one of the best advancements we made with animal breeding. So this next one isn't really anything to do with animal breeding, but another contraption with sheep that I wanted to show you. This is the Wall Regeneration Cell Mark II, and it's really simple. You've got an area where your sheep can regrow their wool by eating the grass, and then using water streams you can shear the sheep and have all of the items pushed down to a single collection point. So a little over 2 weeks since the last animal breeding machine comes this one, the 5th rendition. This one was called the Animal Breeding Machine for Minecraft 1.1. I decided to switch over to the version name because people were using these in different versions of Minecraft, and it made it really clear what one it was intended for. Now this design works with 4 different animals, as you can see, and it was pretty much the same as the last one. The animal breeding cells were the same, but the redstone was a little bit more compact, and the breeding bay is the one thing that had changed. They are actually now a fair bit bigger, and this is because things change, updates break the game, and we have to redesign stuff. So this breeding bay right here now works with trapdoors, or sorry, fence gates instead of trapdoors, and this turned out to actually be one of my most popular animal breeding machines. A lot of people have commented on how they like the building with the faces at the front, so you might remember this one. And with another update to the game came another rendition of the breeding machine, and this one fixed some issues that had been broken, which meant there was a new breeding bay, and also the breeding cells had soul sand in them. The reason why I just cannot remember, but this new breeding bay once again was fairly fast. It used pistons, and you could also breed the new mob with it as well. So quite some time passed by, and then came the ultimate animal breeding machine for Minecraft 1.3. This one was actually intended to be the last ever breeding machine of this type, and it ended up being just that, but for other reasons than expected. I thought this would be the last because it was so damn good. This thing had the best breeding cells, the most compact, and also a breeding bay that was really fast and a lot more compact than any of the ones before it. For that reason, I decided to call it the ultimate animal breeding machine, and this one, as I said, turned out to be the last of its type. So fast forward a month and along comes one of the most significant and biggest changes to animal breeding. This is the compact animal breeder. This one was inspired by Co-Crafted's wool farm, in which you could bob the sheep up and down in water and shear them really easily. I realised this would then work for breeding animals as well, and this made the compact animal breeder possible. Now this has been huge in the game of animal breeding, because ever since, many designs have focused around this storage of animals in singular places, which was something that we couldn't have done before, because in previous versions of the game you couldn't store animals in small spaces without them glitching into blocks. And you can see here this farm was also compatible with all the different types of animal, which was a really awesome feature as well, and it was a huge game changer. So after this point I would have considered myself to no longer be in the lead with the development of this stuff. Lots of people took over and made really awesome farms, including Mumbo Jumbo, who did a lot of stuff with separating the babies from the adults in those compact and confined spaces. But here's a farm that I made quite a while after the last one that I did. This is the bacon breeder. I was really happy with how this one turned out. We have our cedar pigs at the top. When you breed them, the babies get separated. They go through the back down into the bottom, and at the back there we have a lava cooker. And of course the designs of these farms have now changed a fair amount thanks to things like hoppers and being able to activate lava from dispensers coming into the game, and this was a farm that used both of those features. This next breeding farm was a very specific design. It was based on an exploit discovered by Simply Sark, where you could throw a potion at a group of mobs, switch your hand to a looting sword, and that looting effect would actually be applied to the drops from the mobs as they died. So I decided to do this for a breeding setup. You would have a chamber up the top to breed all of the cows. They'd drop down into an area at the bottom where you could easily throw in your potion to do the damage, and then you could switch to your looting sword and get a lot more drops from them. This next video isn't strictly a breeding machine, but it is the most successful video I've ever uploaded to my channel, and I want to say a huge thanks again to Waltech MC, who put us on the right path with this type of farm. It was back in the first time at Craft World we were looking at automating chicken farming, and then he put together some really awesome contraptions which eventually got compacted and organised into this little contraption right here, which automatically breeds the chickens and cooks them for you. A really powerful farm. Once you've built it, you've always got an infinite source of food. This next farm may not be as revolutionary as the compact animal breeder was, but it's still one of my favourites. A huge advancement in overpowered animal breeding right here. This is the mass animal breeder, which works in conjunction with some tricks using controls to automatically breed animals while you're away from your computer. So the animals will go around in a circle, you'll continue to breed them thanks to a contraption that will continuously give you wheat, and then you'll be able to get all of the loot at the end. Optional as well to use a looting sword and damage potion here in this design as well. Now it's not the smallest of things, but it's the concept that works really well, and for that reason it's been one of my favourite designs. This next farm is the Smart Animal Breeder. This one isn't too much different from the Bacon Breeder. A very similar concept, maybe a little bit more compact, but I wanted to show this one because of the use of fence posts here. This was something discovered by Red Eyes. The alternating fence posts would actually allow baby animals to fall through them, yet the adults would remain up top. So a great way of separating them, and of course you can see there at the bottom there's some dispensers, which turns it into a cooker as well. And the last farm in our evolution of animal breeding is an interesting one. It wasn't the most popular of videos I've ever uploaded to my channel, and the concept here was pretty simple. We could have a very compact and tiny farm if the player put some more management into the cows inside, and for that reason it wasn't too well received. I always found it to be fairly interesting, but that is actually the last of farms that I've designed. So we've come a long way, and what the future will hold I just do not know. I kind of feel like animal breeding has been really well and truly explored, and it will probably take some updates and new features for us to revisit some of these concepts again. But that's been it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If any of those videos interest you, there are links to them, all of them, down in the description box below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, and of course leave a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this, because this is how my channel got started. This is how I got into the Minecraft community, and I'm very proud of all the things I've created along the way. So let me know what you think about them. But that's it from me this video. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.